Good evening to the weary, the wandering, and the ones still holding on. Tonight I will be reading from the compilation titled Outlaw Creative, The Geometry of Life. We will be hearing from the chapter titled At the End of the Day. That being said, let's get started, shall we? At the end of the day. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, that's when the truth comes walking in. Not in the morning, when the mind's all busy with what has to be done. Not in the afternoon, when the noise of the world still drowns out the quiet parts of the soul. No, it's the evening hour that tells the truth. The light gets soft, and the questions get heavy. You start thinking about who's around your table, who would miss you if you didn't come home, who knows what your laugh sounds like. And you start realizing that all the things you once chased were just shadows thrown by something simpler. The need for belonging. The need for a small corner of the world that feels like yours. I've traveled, sure. I've gone from place to place, town to town, city to city, trying to figure out what I was looking for. Sometimes I told myself I was chasing purpose, other times freedom, and other times I told myself I just liked to see what was out there. But in truth, I think I was moving because I didn't yet know where stillness could live. I mistook motion for meaning. I thought a man proved his worth by how far he could go. But it turns out, you can travel halfway across the world and still be nowhere near home. There's a difference between a place to stay and a place to be. A place to stay keeps you alive. A place to be lets you live. There's a funny thing about friendship. When you're young, you think it's everywhere. You meet people in the dorms, at bars, on the road, at jobs you don't plan to keep. You think the well of connection is endless. But the older you get, the more you realize that friendship is not abundance, it's endurance. It's not how many people you meet. It's who remains when the weather changes. The world shifts, and some drift off like dust on a hard wind. But a few, a small few, remain quiet and unshakable. Those are the lifelong friends, the ones who have seen you both broken and proud, who know the timbre of your silence as well as your laughter. You don't have to impress them anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You can just sit in a room together, say nothing, and still feel known. That's wealth, if you ask me. That's gold in a world that can't stop measuring things that don't matter. But even with friends like that, something deeper still calls. A man can't live forever as a visitor, not even a welcomed one. You start longing for roots, for the sound of your own footsteps on a floor that remembers you, for a window that catches the light the same way every morning, for a table that has seen your hands, hands that cooked, hands that fixed, hands that trembled and held on anyway. A place to be. Maybe that's what I've been chasing all along. Not success, not adventure, just a place to be myself, fully, freely, without apology. Somewhere I can pick up a guitar and let the sound hang in the air, knowing it's mine to fill. Somewhere I can write until the words start to hum, until the room feels alive with them. Somewhere I can cook, not fancy, not for show, but for the sheer love of feeding somebody I care about. There's holiness in small domestic things when they're done with presence. The cutting of onions, the slow stir of a sauce, the hum of the stove. These are prayers in another language. Every act of care for the home is a way of saying to the universe, I am here, and this is enough. Because that's the real turn of the thing, isn't it? The world teaches us to move outward, to go, to gather, to achieve. But the deeper current of life moves inward. It gathers itself into meaning not by expansion, but by deepening. When you stop running, you find that the horizon you kept chasing was hiding under your feet the whole time. I used to think belonging meant being accepted. Now I think it means being needed. There's a difference. To be accepted is to be tolerated. To be needed is to be interwoven. Needed doesn't mean indispensable. It means missed. It means if you weren't there, something in the rhythm of the world would falter. The chair at the table would sit a little too empty. The laughter would echo differently. And that's what family, chosen or born, really means. It's not perfection or peace or constant joy. It's the web of ordinary need that ties us to one another. It's the sound of a voice calling you from the kitchen. It's the way someone asks, "You good?" and means it. It's being known across time. A man doesn't need many people, but he does need his people. And maybe, more than that, He needs a home where those people can gather. Not a house, a home. A space carved out of chaos and claimed through care. A home isn't where you live, it's where your spirit rests. You know, the thing is, travel doesn't actually teach you what the world is. It teaches you what you are within it. You start noticing what you miss. You start realizing what you carry from place to place. The same coffee mug, the same way of sitting on the edge of the bed in the morning. The same thoughts that visit you when the night gets long. You can be in a hotel room in another country and still make it feel a little like home. One lamp on, notebook open, guitar leaning against the wall. It's not the room that matters, it's the ritual. That quiet insistence, I exist, I create, I belong somewhere, even if I have to carve the space myself. But still, there comes a time when the ritual wants roots, when the man who's always moving realizes that he's not just searching, he's returning to the part of himself that wants to stay. At the end of the day, that's the story I keep finding myself telling. The traveler who's tired of the road. The artist who's tired of transience. The soul that's ready to stop measuring life in miles and start measuring it in meals shared. Songs written. Nights spent under one familiar roof. I used to think that if I just kept moving, I could outrun the ache. The ache of loss, the ache of time, the ache of knowing how fragile this whole thing is. But the truth is, movement only delays the meeting. Sooner or later, the ache catches up, and when it does, it doesn't come to hurt you. It comes to show you what matters. The ache says you need roots. The ache says you need rest. The ache says you need to be known, not just seen. It took me years to hear that voice without fighting it, to realize that wanting a home, wanting a family, wanting a small life filled with deep things, that's not giving up. That's arriving. The world worships motion. But creation, the kind that lasts, is born of stillness. Songs don't come from speed, they come from listening. Words don't bloom on airplanes, they bloom in quiet rooms, in late nights with a lamp and a pen and a heart that's finally stopped running. I think that's why I keep circling back to the idea of a little family. Not in the Hallmark sense, just people, a few of them. Enough to cook for, enough to laugh with, enough to make it worth coming home. That's what it comes down to. We spend half our lives proving we can live without needing anyone, and the other half praying someone will knock on the door. When I picture it, the place I want, it's not grand. It's small. Maybe a porch. Maybe a little music drifting from a window. Maybe a few friends talking in the kitchen while something simmers on the stove. Maybe the smell of wood. Maybe silence, deep and warm. A dog asleep on the floor. A book left open. A guitar waiting to be picked up again. That's enough. I think that's what the road teaches you in the end. Not how to keep moving, but how to know when you've arrived. Because there's a point in every traveler's life when he looks around and realizes he doesn't need to see another skyline, another ocean, another new beginning. He just wants to stand still long enough to watch something grow, something that has his fingerprints on it. Maybe that's all I've ever wanted. A place to be, to make things, to share them, to fill the air with the sound of my own living. And I suppose that's the secret nobody tells you when you're young. That home isn't found, it's built, not all at once, not out of perfection, but piece by piece, through habit, care, and presence, through showing up over and over for the same people, in the same place. Home is repetition sanctified by love. And so yeah, I reckon. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, before it all gets started, what matters is simple. A little family, a place to be, a guitar to play, a stove to stand by, a table with friends, the quiet knowledge that you found your corner of the world and made it sing. That's what I've found as I've traveled far and wide for this reason or that reason, that the whole world is a long road that leads back to a single truth. You can go anywhere. You can be anyone. But until you have somewhere to be yourself, you're still just passing through. And when that day comes, when you finally arrive at your own doorstep and know that you can stop, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning.